All right, welcome back to the Gospel Answer series. We are seeing the things the gospel answers that are relevant to all of us. The first thing is the gospel answers, I am the truth. Second thing, I'm the truth of existence. And the third thing, the way you know the truth is by observation and reason. Now, what's the fourth thing we are going to see? We are now getting to the meat of the issue. What are the claims that the gospel makes? Because the claims the gospel makes are contentious one, which means that there are people of opposing and different other worldviews that might, argue against or raise a rebuttal or a counterclaim against what the gospel says. The very first thing the gospel claims today, and we're going to be looking at that by observation and reason, is there is God, the reality of God. So the reality of God is the first thing that the gospel claims. Now, I want us to read what Paul said in Romans chapter 1. I'm going to quote it a bit. You could check it out yourself. So in Romans 1 and 16, Paul said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. It is the power of God to salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew, also to the Greek. Therein is the righteousness of God revealed. He said, from faith to faith, as is written, the just shall live by faith. Now, we are seeing Paul at this juncture tell us the gospel is this message that saves when people believe. But the next verse, verse 18 says, the gospel reveals the wrath of God. That's not salvation anymore. But it says he reveals the wrath of God to those who don't believe. And it tells us those people are suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. So what is the truth they are suppressing? The next verse says, because what may be known of God. So the truth we are told that they are suppressing is, number one, the reality of God. Now, that's not all. That's the first claim of the gospel. There are other claims in the gospel, like the redemptive claim, which we're going to get to. But the first claim of the gospel is everyone ought to see the reality of God. So when we preach the message of the gospel and we say it's truth, the first thing you need to accept is that fact that there is God, right? And how does Paul say you know there is God? He says when you observe the world and you think about it, it lends itself to the conclusion that there is God. But what exactly are we observing in the world that lends itself to that conclusion? There were two things Paul showed us that we observed in the world. I'm going to talk about them, then we'll pick them up from the next video. The first thing Paul says we observe in the world is that the world is finite. And the second thing he tells us we observe is that the world is contingent. That means it's not necessary. It's dependent, you might say. It is contingent. I'll explain what they mean as we proceed. But that's what we are looking at. How does the gospel answer that there is God? Well, observe the world. It's finite, it's contingent. There must be God. See you on the next one. We'll explain further.